Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Ahern. I'm the Chief Officer in the Ministry of Health and Culture. I'm joined this afternoon by the Minister for Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure, the Honourable Kurt Tibbett, and the Councillor for the Ministry of Health and Culture, Roy McTaggart. We're here this afternoon because today is September 1st, and it's the first day of the nomination period for the National Heroes Day Awards for 2016. So we're very excited to be here. I want to thank you for joining us to help us get the word out. I'm going to now ask Councillor McTaggart to bring some remarks on behalf of the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we kick off this nomination period for National Heroes Day 2016. I'm delighted to bring these comments on behalf of the Premier, who is unable to join us this evening. He has extended his apologies. But the theme this year is agriculture, and what we're asking is the public to nominate people or persons who they believe has played a very pivotal role in growing crops, raising animals for food, or working in the areas of science and research in agriculture. As you know, this government is a big proponent of agriculture and the people who grow and raise food stuff for local consumption. Indeed, the Premier himself often talks of is a farmer himself and often speaks of his love for farming. In the Progressives' first term in 2005 to 2009, it was recognized that farmers needed an outlet to sell their goods to market, so Market at the Grounds was established, and it still today attracts many growers and buyers in Lower Valley each Saturday morning. Since then, Market at the Grounds moved to Camana Bay on Wednesdays, and soon we will shortly have a 32-stall facility near the cricket pitch where farmers can bring their goods to sell to the public on a daily basis. I believe today that our farmers are producing more than ever before, and I commend our restaurants that use local produce and the supermarkets for supporting farmers by selling local fruit, vegetables, meat, and fish. The demand for local foodstuff is growing, putting more and more people in touch with local farmers. And so today, if there's a member of the public who doesn't know a farmer, there are many ways for which you can meet one. This Heroes Day on the 25th of January 2016 gives us a chance to recognize the men and women who work tirelessly day in and day out to ensure that we have good quality food to consume, which in turn can lead us all to a healthier lifestyle. Nominations will be taken throughout the month of September, so I encourage everyone to get their nominations in. And please do not assume that that's someone whom you know will be nominated by someone else. Please take the time to nominate those that you would like to. There are many, many men and women in the agricultural sector who deserve to be honored. Now, I plead with you this evening to please help us to make sure they get the credit that they so rightfully deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And as Councillor mentioned, the theme this year is agriculture. And so I'm really, really thrilled to have the Minister of Agriculture, Honourable Kurt Tibbett, here with us this afternoon to help us kick off the nomination period. So, Minister Tibbett.
Thank you, Jennifer. And just following up on what Councillor McTaggart said regarding nomination forms. If you see in front of me, you see a little small table poster which speaks about the nomination forms. And I believe, Jennifer, they'll be out at the post offices.
We're hoping to get them to the post offices, the front front reception at the Government Administration Building as well.
And perhaps if we can think of other locations to place the nomination forms to make life easier for people who may have a desire to nominate someone, we will do so. But at least they will be in the post offices and out front of the Government Admin Building, the nomination forms. There are, I think, 5 categories: the early pioneer, the pioneer, emerging pioneer, memorial scroll, and long service award. And the nomination forms describe each of these categories so that people will know, whoever they wish to nominate, which category that person best fits in when they're going to make their nomination. So on the back of the form, you will see where you have to fill it out, and then you can decide on which of those 5 categories you're recommending the nomination for. Councillor McTaggart spoke to the 32 stall location. Do we call that Hulda Avenue, or do we still, or where do we call that one? Anyway, it's by CNB's roundabout. People will have seen the construction going on there, and that hopefully we will have open by the 2nd week in October. I think we plan on having a business after hours to have the grand opening, and certainly we're not going to be limiting the business after hours just to chamber members. I hope the chamber will accept the fact that the public is invited also, to really get a good kickoff for all of those who have stalls there and to show their wares. And that's not just, those stalls will not just be for fruits, vegetables, produce, but it will also include food, smoothies, drinks, and also our artisans will have opportunity to show their wares at that location also. So I certainly look forward to that being open and running. Next year, 2016, is real exciting in my mind for agriculture. Before I start talking about the good stuff, let me say that I want to thank, first of all, my colleagues in the Cabinet and the caucus for allowing agriculture to be the focus this next National Heroes Day. And I think it certainly rings true what Councillor McTaggart said regarding the government's commitment to agriculture. Notwithstanding the fact that we still battle for resources for the department to function the way we would like for it to function, we're certainly doing the best we can with the limited resources that we have. And as things get a little bit better, I'm sure you'll help me get some more resources. Sir, you don't have to answer. Thank you very much. Just to speak to next year, we have as I said, by 2nd week in October, we should have the market at the cricket grounds open. That will be the name of the new location by the CNB roundabout. It's going to be called Market at the Cricket Grounds. And then we have the National Heroes Day on 25th January. That's the last Monday in January. And on the heels of that, 10th of February, Ash Wednesday is early next year. 10th of February is the agriculture show. Will that be the 49th? I think it's the 49th. Yeah. God spares life, I'll still be around for the 50th. So those will be almost back to back, those various events. And we're already beginning to plan, hopefully, we'll be able to have a bigger and better show as we go along into next year. And then later on in the year, we are very hopeful that for the first time, a British overseas territory will be hosting the annual Caribbean Week of Agriculture. That's October. Yeah, they haven't finalized the dates yet, but that'll be October 2016. And the Cayman Islands being allowed to host that is certainly a milestone for the overseas territories, as the Caribbean Week of Agriculture is something that is usually dedicated to the sovereign nations in the region. So that is absolutely good news. It's going to take a lot of hard work to pull it off, but I think we can. And I think once we get everybody's commitment, it's going to take a lot of private sector assistance, but I think we can manage it. And the exposure to the Cayman Islands in many, many ways is certainly worth that effort. So we're looking forward to a lot of good things for agriculture. And let me say publicly also, while I have this opportunity today, I want to thank the public, and I want to thank the supermarkets. I want to thank the restaurants, and let me say everyone so that I really don't forget, for the continued growing support that agriculture has received over the recent years. And it is certainly encouraging for the farmers. We now have entities who are branching out into areas of agriculture here in the Cayman Islands that we never thought of before. People are growing herbs and spices. We're doing wonderful compared to how we were before with cattle farming. There is a goat farm in the Brack who, as I understand it, the owners of that intend to get to the point where they'll be preparing goat cheese for the local market, among other things. So we're looking better. There is a lot of room for improvement, but I am really excited to see that we are no longer at odds with the supermarkets because they're afraid to take the local produce, the local meats, because they weren't sure of the quality, and the farmers have stepped up to the plate. So while we still have our challenges and while we still have room to get better, I certainly, I feel real good about agriculture here in Cayman for the time being, and certainly I'm going to do everything that I can while I am where I am to try to continue to see the sector grow. I want to pay a special tribute to all of those farmers who endure the pain, best way for me to put it, and sometimes the losses, because nature has its way, and still stay with the task and still do what they lovingly do, eking out a living in some instances, but at the same time doing their best for Cayman to become as self-sufficient as possible. One last thing, I'm talking too much, I know, but one last thing, food and nutrition security. The consultant is almost ready with the draft policy document, so we are expecting that by end of October, middle of November, we'll have that draft policy ready to be tabled in the Legislative Assembly. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the stakeholders who have had meetings with the consultant and staff members of the ministry to give their input so that when we get the draft ready and have a second look at it, use their knowledge and experience again, we'll be able to get a draft policy that is relevant and certainly workable here for the Cayman Islands. Again, we are one of the few in the region to have done this, unlike many of our pieces of legislation, Councillor McTaggart, in the financial services, that the rest look for us to be able to get their own legislation from. Certainly this policy will assist many of our neighbors and surrounding countries with their ability to do that. We've had the foresight, because a lot of people don't pay much attention to that. But when the policy is out, people will see the benefits of it, just for the ordinary man on the street being able to look at it and being able to be guided as to what's best to do and what's best to eat and how best to deal with all of that. So, having said all of that, plenty more to say about another time. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Minister Tibbetts. And as Minister Tibbetts mentioned, the task of agriculture really is it's hard work, it's commitment, it's a passion. And these awards are really an opportunity for us to recognize those men and women who have made the sacrifices, who've continued to put the effort in, and have made the contributions that have got us to where we are in the Cayman Islands in the area of agriculture. Minister Tibbetts talked about how we're very much on the leading edge with a lot of the activities that we are doing in agriculture in the Cayman Islands, and we wouldn't be there without the efforts not just of Minister Tibbetts and his team, but the men and women who have been actively involved in agriculture over the years and contributing to the development of it. So these awards for Heroes Day next year are really an opportunity for us to recognize those people and to thank them for the incredible efforts that they have made and the contributions that they have made to the area of agriculture. And as Councillor McTaggart said, I think that one of the things we really want to make sure people do is make the nomination. Just because you think of somebody that you figure everybody would nominate, everybody knows that this particular individual has made a significant contribution, don't assume that someone else is going to nominate them. Take the time to make that nomination. It doesn't take a lot of time. The nomination forms are on the ministry's website, which is www.ministryofhealth.gov.ky. You can fill out the nomination online. You can print the form and submit it to us. Our email address is nhd@gov.ky. You can send your nomination in by email. You can email us and we'll send one out to you. And as Minister said as well, they'll be available in the post offices and the front office, or the front reception here at the Government Admin Building. But we really want to encourage everybody to take the time and make the nomination. The nomination period is on from the 1st to the 30th of this month. We had over 260 nominations last year when we celebrated pioneers in health services. So we're hoping that this year will exceed those nomination numbers, but we really need the public to take the time and make the nomination to help us identify those deserving men and women for recognition. So unless Minister or Councillor had any other comments.
It's just the month of September.
Just the month of
Yeah,
September.
we want to reiterate that
Yeah.
the nomination period is just the entire month of September. So
Yeah.
please don't say I'll do it tomorrow. Let's do it now as quickly as we possibly can.
Nothing more from you, sir.
So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Joe Avery, Cayman 27. Now, I remember one of my favorite things to cover is the agriculture show, and this year I was privileged enough to talk with you, Minister Tibbetts, in the BRAC at the agriculture show, and one name that came up there was that of Mr. Murch. Now, what category would he fit in? As would he be a pioneer, or how would he work if someone were to nominate him? Because I know, everyone talked about his generosity, kind of the embodiment of that farmer spirit over there. Where would he fit in?
To be very honest with you, somebody like Margarito, Chantelope, you would need to put him in every category. And I'm not being funny. We know that Murch has passed on now, but he was the best example I know of a Caymanian who loved farming, dedicated the bigger part of his entire life to making new discoveries in the sector, to trying anything and everything to see what would grow here in the Cayman Islands. And I really mean what I said when I say that he could fit in any category. But there perhaps is a category for him that we don't know about yet, that we might know by Heroes Day. Never can tell.
Just to speak a bit about the categories and what's involved with them, we have the early pioneer, the pioneer, and the emerging pioneer. The pioneer categories are to recognize those individuals who've made significant contributions in a pioneering way to the area of agriculture. And the difference between the three categories is to do with the timing of their contribution. So for an early pioneer, they would have made their significant contribution prior to 1960. For a pioneer, their contribution was made between 1960 and 2005. And for an emerging pioneer, it's somebody who's made their contribution since 2005. So for the pioneers, again, we're looking for people who've made significant contributions in some way. We then have the memorial scroll, which obviously is for people who are deceased and have passed on. And then the Long Service Award. And the Long Service Award is for those people who, while they may not have been pioneers, they may not have been leaders, they've made a contribution over more than 10 years' time and have continued to do so. So those are the categories that we have for nominations.
You see why I said he'd fit for everyone?
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Yes?
Oh, sorry.
Hi, this is Kelsey Jacob with the Compass. Is it on?
No, it's not. I turned it off. I'm polite. I say battery life.
Thank you. Kelsey Jacob with the Compass. I was just wondering
He's
if
the
you
only
could.
one that wants to be heard. That's his problem.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the pioneers are going to be chosen from amongst the nominees, who's going to be involved in that process, and if you'd be consulting with any outside agricultural experts, for
Okay.
instance.
Sure. The Heroes Day Committee has been appointed by Cabinet, and it includes representatives from the various districts, as well as representatives from within government who have some technical expertise and background. So once the nominations are received, the committee then reviews them and assesses them. We also have someone from the National Archives on the committee as well who can help us to verify or get additional information on some of the information that we receive in the nomination. The committee has a really tough job ahead of them because the categories of early pioneer and pioneer, we try to restrict them to 50 total between the two categories. And as I said last year, we had over 260 nominations across all of the categories. So it's a lot of work for the committee to assess the nomination. So it is important, if you are nominating someone, to please give us as much information as you can, specifically to do with how you believe that the person has made a significant contribution, what the pioneering aspect of their contribution was, to help us review it. So the committee has the month of October basically to review the nominations and make recommendations on who should be recognized.
And just to quickly say, Jennifer, the reason why the timing of the nominations is only the month of September, picture January and all of the planning and everything else that has to go in to being able to have everything ready for the 25th of January. By the time the committee needs to meet, and I'm hopeful that we'll have as many nominations at least as we had last year. Then it's going to take them a little while to go through everything and make their decisions. One of the things that I haven't heard a lot of people ask about, but I'm pretty confident that the committee will have that ability, is someone may nominate a person for a certain category, and when the committee examines it very closely, that person really should be in another category. It doesn't mean that the nomination will be rejected. It just means that the committee will look at it, and once the person is accepted as one who should receive an award, then that person will be placed in the appropriate category.
Yeah.
Yes, Dion?
Dion Anglin, Radio Cayman. Just wondering, is there going to be a market at the grounds in the Sister Islands anytime soon? Have you all been thinking about it, or is there already one there?
Well, when they have their annual agriculture show, I have to tell you, they have a whale of a time. You get probably, not to exaggerate, but you probably get about 1,500 people up at the site on the bluff in the Brac during that day and passing through. And probably out of that 1,500, probably 500 or 600 out of those 1,500 come to the Brac for the show and don't live in the Brac. So the Brac's population being what it is, it's not very often that it would be a sustainable effort, should I say, for them to have a market at the grounds. But what I do know that is happening now that was unheard of also over there is the local shops and supermarkets over there are now taking produce and vegetables and other things from the few people who farm in the Brac and actually selling their stuff. And you have a couple of entities who who are doing their own thing and who are selling. So while I would be quite happy and excited to say to you, yes, 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 I think the truth of the matter is that just because of the size of the population, it's not really a sustainable effort, but it may well get to the point where you might have more than one such effort for the year, and they have talked about that. And I'm sure when they build the courage up to do so, they will come running.
But they'll
And
also
we'll
be able
there to assist.
They'll be taking part in the one here.
So sorry?
Would they be partaking in the market of the grounds here? They're-
Well, when we met last, I forgot to say a special thank you to Mr. Kirkland Nixon and Mr. Hamlin Stevenson. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because they really have worked very hard to see that the new facility get where it is now. And while government has assisted, I want to make it very clear that that is not a government project. That is what you call a PPP. The government has assisted financially where it can to get it up and running, but it will be run by a group of farmers. When we had the meeting, I think it was just 2 or 3 days ago, we had a meeting, and I remember hearing Kirkland and Hamlin mention that they're going to have certain days and certain stalls reserved, so that if we can work a little deal with Cayman Airways to fly certain of the farmers over, they certainly would wish to participate. And we're going to do our best to accommodate that, because that can only encourage the people in the BRAC to do the same. So glad you asked me that question. Certainly as far as we can. And the other thing that's really kind of big in the BRAC is arts and crafts.
Right.
And I wouldn't doubt for what that they would have representation there on a regular basis. Even if they're not physically there, they will produce the arts and crafts and perhaps have one of the vendors at the site selling that for them. So they'll have every opportunity to participate, and that's a good thing.
And my last question, could you elaborate a little more on the overseas territories, the British Overseas Territories event in October
Of 2016.
2016?
It's the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. It's an annual event. It brings together all of it's not just for farmers. There are various agencies, AICA, CARDI. There's another one later. There's another one. Anyway, some of these agencies are offshoots of the Caribbean community, or what we know as CARICOM. And it is an event that is organized, and you probably get between 400 and 500 delegates. And it's not just about farmers showing their produce and or vegetables and stuff like that. It's you have various booths. You will hear about new cutting edge technology. You will hear about what's the latest when it comes to ruminants or tubulars or whatever. So it's more technically based, this week of agriculture, than actually what we would have at an ag show with everybody selling all of their stuff. So this is the nuts and bolts that makes you get to that point. What's interesting that we are going to hopefully be able to focus on, because Cayman Islands is what we would call a small island nation, so it's a really pretty big task for us to host this, but I'm pretty confident we can. But one of the things we're going to focus on for the Caribbean Week of Agriculture 2016 is the fact that there are many opportunities in the region for large investors to invest in various niche markets, not just for the regional markets, but also for export to the continents. And while there has not been tremendous focus on that in recent times, I believe there is ample opportunity. Nowadays, the world is just next door, the way everything else is working. So transportation and all of that is not going to be a huge problem like it used to be to get stuff to various locations in short order. And I believe that there is tremendous opportunity because of the climate here in the Caribbean for there to be new niche markets opening up. Remember years ago, before you were born, unfortunately, but you will have heard of it, especially in the Eastern Caribbean, you also had it in Jamaica, there was a huge banana market for Europe. The ships used to come specifically and load up with bananas and go, and then world trade and all kinds of mix-up and political things got in the way, and all of that collapsed. And as a result, many of those countries in the Eastern Caribbean have suffered tremendously. Their economies have suffered to this day for it. And I'm saying that I believe that there is ample opportunity for larger investors to come to the region and look for niche markets to be able to do that. And I believe that's one of the things that we will focus on at this Caribbean Week of Agriculture. So those are the things that you will see happening at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. From a tourism standpoint, it's the perfect time, October. You get 400 or 500 delegates coming down, staying at the hotel. So from that perspective, it works well. But this is not just about direct benefit to the Cayman Islands in the immediate, when you have a Caribbean Week of Agriculture being hosted by us here at the Cayman Islands, in the Cayman Islands, I should say, but more so showcasing to the world the Cayman Islands itself, and at the same time bringing the region together to entice the rest of the world to come look at us, to see what together we can do and what together we can accomplish. And I dare not say that regardless of how it appears to us now, we never know the day when you can't have the boat arriving or you can't have the plane come in to bring you your food to eat. So the more you can grow locally, the more chance you have of surviving whenever there is an event, even though we pray to God that we never have to face that event. I say it like that because it simply is the truth. Hope that helps.
Were there any other questions? Councillor, did you have any final comments you wanted to make?
No, just to thank you all for attending and giving us the opportunity to tell you of the nomination period. Again, plead for the public to get their nominations in, and look forward to receiving them, and for the committee to working, and looking forward to as well to National Heroes Day, to having a very wonderful event where we celebrate agriculture and the many people who deserve to be recognized for their contributions there too. Thank you.
And I know, Jen, that this is out of script and really has nothing to do with the purpose of this press briefing, but let me just say publicly that our thoughts and prayers are with our brothers and sisters in Dominica. We know that they have suffered tremendously in recent times because of not storm surge actually, but simply put, rainfall. And I've been to Dominica. Dominica is one of the richest territories in agriculture because it is mountainous and has such high rainfall. And certainly any help that the government, the public, or anyone can give will go a long way to helping them to rebound. The Premier was able to speak with our friend, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt, and while it's grim, where there's life, there's hope. So all the help that we can give, let's chip in and do so to make sure that they have an opportunity to get back to where they were at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks again for coming this afternoon. Please do make sure you make your nominations September 1st to 30th. We're recognizing our contributors in the area of agriculture. You can get the nomination forms on the ministry website, www.ministryofhealth.gov.ky, or send us an email at nhd@gov.ky. Please take the time, make a nomination, make sure it gets in before the end of September, and we'll look forward to celebrating with everybody in January when we honor our pioneers in agriculture. Thanks again for coming and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.